the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we have our November recap episode, which means you'll hear clips from interviews with Jukka from Omnium Gatherum, Alexander from Vianova, Amy and Michael from Preyrs, Mike from CKY, Tyler from Excide, and Flynn from Gasket. It's absolutely wild to me that the month of November is already over. It seems like these interviews just aired, that I just had them. And it's wild to me that we are already at the recap episode and heading into the final month of 2025. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of As the Story Grows. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, welcome. Thanks for checking us out. You can find links in the show notes or at our website, asthestorygrows.com, for our mailing list, our Discord server, and our Patreon page. If you would like an As the Story Grows sticker, you can email me at asthestorygrows@gmail.com. Put sticker in the subject, and then in the body of the message, leave your address, and I will mail you an As the Story Grows sticker for free. And if you want to leave a comment, you can leave a comment like D. Frank Comedy did on chapter 290 with former Project 86 bassist Stephen Dahl. He said, "It always feels like I'm the only Project 86 fan, but there are tons of us out there. Also, Truthless Heroes is by far my favorite album from Project 86. I think Steve's bass line, combined with Randy's amazing backup vocals, and people hate him, but I love the interludes, and it made the concept album pop even more." Thanks for leaving a comment. You can leave a comment on any episode of the podcast, and I will read it on air. If you leave an Apple review, I will read it on the podcast. So thanks for leaving comments. Thanks for liking the podcast. Thanks for listening. And enjoy this recap episode of all the interviews that aired in the month of November. In this press release, there's a quote you say, "Overall, these lyrics are more stripped down and direct than ever before." What led to that direction, maybe away from like a poetic or storytelling direction?
Well, it was actually like this like theme, loose theme that I said before, like this street theme. I wanted to challenge myself and my colleagues in OG also were like, can you try this kind of like a direction like this time around? And I was like, of course I can try. I cannot say that it will bear like fruition, but still, I was happy that we did it, and I was happy that I made the choice to push that kind of like extra thing out of me to go to a new direction lyrically, and it's been great because it's also helped me to understand my writing processes and my like ideas and where do the lyrics come from. Like it's a better understanding about me for myself as well in that sense, and now I think I'm more prepared to face those kind of like lyrical challenges and opportunities in the future too. Yeah,
you've mentioned this loose theme in this press release. It says stories from the streets. Was there a conversation as a band as to like the certain things you wanted to touch on, or was it all just directed from you?
Well, it was basically directed from me. Of course, like we thought about the whole theme of streets, and we thought about our own teenage years back in the 90s, and like as we are kids of the 90s, except for our drummer Atte, who's born in 1993. So he's a different story altogether. But still, those stories that are in the lyrics, they come from my perspective.
Yeah. You worked with Bjorn producing your vocals on this record. how'd you end up working with him, and what did he bring that had not been there previously?
Well, it was Marcus suggested that this could be an opportunity to work with Björn. What do I think about it? And at first I was kind of like, because he's such an amazing vocalist, and we all know that, of course, with Soilwork and Night Flight Orchestra. And I was like, of course, excited in a sense, but also like a little bit nervous because he's Björn. But still, I was like, of course, we can try this and we can do this, and that led to us going to Solna Sound Studios in Stockholm, and we had 6 days with Björn and with Simon, who was recording the vocals. Simon, who also plays in Soilwork, and I think we had a really, really good chemistry. Like, I was like 98% ready with my arrangement and with lyrics, especially when I entered the studio. But he had some really, really good pointers here and there throughout the songs that maybe we should do this instead of like little things, little details, like here and there to get more out of me in that sense, and it's really worked. Like, I can really hear those subtle things and influences that he was able to implant into these songs, and I'm really glad we did it. I think he did a fucking awesome job.
Vianova's kind of sound and look and vibe, I know from like the very first video, I was like, oh, this is something fresh and new, which is really hard to do in this metalcore adjacent bubble, right? Like, everything's been done before. I think I even commented on a video, like, I've dubbed the band Jamiroquai core.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to start with, like, it's really interesting because, like, I'm also a graphic designer, so I also have the tendency to, like, talk about the visuals a lot, and people would be like, hey guys, you're still a band, you don't talk about the fucking music, man. What the but yeah, if we start with the music, I mean, I guess we come from like a metalcore background, I would say. We started as more of a metalcore band with some progressive elements, even though, like, the progressiveness, that's also, like, depending on who you ask, stuff is either more or less progressive, of course. And yeah, with this record, it's just that I think we just did a lot more, like, reflection, and, like, we had just more intention of what we want to do. Like, one thing that I always say is, like, with this one, like, the defining factors is that Felix and me were like in the creative driver's seat, just because for some reason we were really on the same wavelength. We just shared the same vibe. We didn't really there was a lot of chemistry there, and like we didn't really, like, I think we kind of knew like the direction we wanted to go in without having to talk about it a lot, just like having to figure out the specifics and how we want to do it, I guess. And also, I have to mention, I'm like I don't write the music, I'm the singer. But however, with this album, I did give a lot of feedback and have a very specific, like, vision in mind, I guess. So, like, I did have some influence there. Just mentioning that because, like, I don't, like, when I talk about stuff like this, I don't want it to seem like I've written the instrumentals or something, just because. But it's, like, really hard to gauge just because I think like this process has been very synergetic in the way, like, that we've approached things. So yeah, like, Felix and me, like, really coming up with the vision of what we want this to be. Then we also had, like, for the first time, like, we worked with our producer Leon, and he was, like, just a friend at first. And he's not a, like, normal producer. He's a roofer by trade, and, like, he makes music. Just like he made music for himself and, like, just with friends. But, like, yeah, we like he kind of became the fifth band member. Or like he will join the band actually. So like we're trying to get him in on live. So like he will probably join the band, I guess. Not official yet, but yeah. And he like also like we ended up writing together, and him like also like being the producer, like knowing a lot of audio production and music theory, he was able to help like just with like granting us a lot of like room for experimentation to figure out like how we want to do it, I guess. And yeah, I just like a lot of just approaching it like just wanting to push our boundaries. I don't want to say like push the boundaries of music just because, you know, depending on who you ask, this is either like super lame or crazy. You know, if you come from like, if you just listen to basic metalcore, this will seem super wild. If you listen to artsy music where somebody is smashing a pan on his head and recording that for an hour, you're like, oh, this is, you know, this is not crazy. You know what I mean? Depending on how far you zoom out, like music we can also be very boring, and I don't think that we are doing something that has never been done before. I think without us, it's just probably the way we pick the influences and assemble the ingredients, so to say, right? And just like wanting to do something that is like feels maybe a little bit more universal, where, you know, it can be heavy, it can be aggressive, but it can also be fun. But also like not just be a funny band. I think one of my favorite ways to put it, that was something that my girlfriend said. She was like, you are a fun band, but you're not a funny band. Of course, if you look at our social media, we are funny as well, but like the music is not joke music, you know? I mean, you're not listening to the music, you're like, oh yeah, they made a fart joke here and like did the stupid thing there. It's still, I feel like very much a serious album. However, it has this thing where it can be fun and lighthearted and like have a bit of a smirk, you know what I mean? Or like, like it can wink at you, but like you still get something that is emotionally like authentic and impactful. And I think, and like having something that, you know, encompasses all of that was really, our intention. And I think the way, you know, some people say it's all over the place, which it is. And I think that's a tendency the band always had. And like also like Felix Writing always had, if you listen to the earlier material, but like we're just like trying to like hone that in and still like develop something that feels like there's a thread running through every song that makes the album like work as a whole body of work, you know? I think that was something that was important. And the whole visual stuff, as I said, also graphic designer studied that. So it really made sense to like step into that role for the band at this point. And just think about like how we can just extend the identity of the music to make it much more of a holistic art project, I suppose. I know it sounds very pretentious to put it like that, but in a way that's how it is. You just want to communicate what's inside, like you know, the music, in the visuals, the colors, the way you present yourself, the way you deliver maybe a video. And just make something that feels immersive where people can dive into and just get an idea of this project. Like that's something that I really want to do. I wanted to make something where you're looking at this maybe just online for now, and you really feel like there's a universe where this band is coming from.
What leads to the decision here in the last few years to go away from like Amy Montgomery project or band or into, you know, Preyrs and this full-on band?
Well, honestly, just the natural evolution of what my music was starting to become was, you know, obviously I started off as just myself. Over time that grew into me and Michael, and then it grew into a 3-piece band, and then it grew into a 4-piece band, and with that comes, you know, the love of big muffs and and fuzz, and that just going more and more, but it was especially with this record, we noticed that the songs that we were coming out with were a lot different to everything that had been put out under my name in the past. And we really just felt like it was the perfect time to just put this and everything that comes after this in the future in this project under a separate name. It kind of opens up this space for us to be able to experiment with heavier, more raw, I suppose, sounds, and more honest, and sometimes darker lyricism than what I was doing before. It just opens up a blank canvas for that, and for us to experiment with that in the future, and also still leaves, me and my name free to kind of do what I will, whatever that might be in the future,
Yeah, I suppose as well, just to mention, which is an interesting 21st century problem, that everything lives on YouTube now, and
right.
It was really interesting that we said to our agent, actually our band's actually really heavy now. Let's try and play this rock festival or this metal festival, and then you have a situation where a programmer for a festival punches into YouTube, Amy Montgomery, and then he just they land on a beautiful piano ballad from 5 years ago, and very quickly you could be written off. So it was super interesting, a little bit scary to rebrand, of course.
Yeah.
Very scary
that we put so much energy into playing under Amy's name and building up. But then, interestingly, straight away, our agent shopped around the first sort of recordings and a really cool live session that we'd branded as Preyrs, and he came back and got us one of the biggest metal festivals in the UK called Bloodstock. So. And then we were worried that we weren't heavy enough for. So we went from being the heaviest band at some like folk and pop festivals to being the lightest band at these metal festivals. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was, with everything being on the internet, it's like you do all that work to build this brand, and then it's like, okay, actually we need to rebrand. And it's like, who wants to do that? Like,
I know.
It is. It was super scary. It still is super scary, to be honest. Obviously everything that I had built up under my name, especially online. I mean, really, the only scary things about all of this is the perception of you online. Really, like, that's it.
Right.
If that wasn't a part of this conversation, it would only be exciting. So. But unfortunately, that's not the world we're living in, is it?
Yeah, it's hard. It's easy. It's slightly easier to get a gig if you've got 10,000 followers on this, and then all of a sudden you're back to zero, and you go, "Oh God, will a festival still be interested?" Even though it's the same band and we're super tight, and everything, the music's the same. You go, "Wow!" So
yeah.
But so far, so good. I would say, yeah.
What was the inspiration for the name?
For the Preyrs name?
Yeah.
You can maybe.
I think we stumbled upon the wordplay and the name. Hadn't fully sort of figured out how we were going to spell it, but definitely liked the idea of the connotations of when you say pray versus when you mess with that and it's actually it sounds like this but it looks like this.
Yeah.
And then the more we sat with that, then that ended up having, I don't know if it was subconscious, but it plays into the lyrical themes and sort of what you project. You could speak on this a bit better, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. The kind of duality of the two versions of Prey is exactly reflecting what we do musically, not just in this first album. I would definitely say everything that's to come from Preyrs. Yeah. It will be somewhere in that realm. Also, for me, what I love about the name is that when you see the logo, the two R's are kind of reflecting off each other, and there's an even amount of letters in the name, which makes it kind of like the two R's are symmetrical then, which also reflects the kind of idea of holding up a mirror to yourself, others, or the world around you, in order to come out with what I think anyway is pretty deep and reflective lyricism, but with the aggression of the musicality. So that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, and there are some spiritual themes, you know, you could dip into, but then it always has that ferocity of when the band comes together, and it's just you attack the audience. So it's a lot of fun to sort of play on that idea.
All right, let's talk about CKY. How'd you meet the band, get connected, and then what led you to joining?
That's a long story, but I'll do an abridged version. I met these dudes actually when I was a kid, probably 15 years old. I had family in Pennsylvania, and my father and my parents, we went up to visit for the holidays, and I just ended up running to a great mutual friend of Chad and I's. His name is Matt Citronbaum, and he was running a company called Bent Forms, who was making all the jewelry for CKY. He made the heartogram hood ornament for Bam Margera's Mercedes that you saw in the MTV Cribs episode. And I ran into him, of all places, at a Sam Ash playing. He heard me playing CKY riffs because I was like, I'm in Philly, I got to play CKY. So he overheard me playing CKY on the bass, and he obviously came over and, you know, was trying to pick my brain. And then he was like, he told me who he was and what he does. And he invited my parents and I over to his place and showed us, like, he has like this museum of CKY jewelry and like artifacts from their, you know, upcoming, because he grew up with Chad. And that ended up blossoming into a friendship with the band and I ended up getting my first gig working with them, filming their Hellview event that they did every year around Halloween. And I filmed Hellview the second year at the Electric Factory. And that's, you know, hanging out with them and just being where they were and going to their shows. It was the first time I ever went backstage with a band. And that was like what inspired me to pursue my career.
Nice.
And, you know, we kept in touch over the years. I would, you know, run into them at shows and go see them at the Warped Tour, go see them when they're in town. And eventually, when the time came to, you know, I became a free agent, not playing with Soulfly anymore, Chad was in my DMs like 3 days later, like, hey, what are you up to? You know, would love to have you join the fold. And at that moment, I was kind of like wanting to take a break.
Yeah.
And I was like, I only want to do things. If I do anything, it's only going to be something that I really, really want to do. And that was, you know, I said no to a couple of things, but when I saw Chad reach out, I was like, all right, this is something that I want to do. And here we go. So.
Let's talk about Excide. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah. I was going to say, we hear like the emphasis different, like people say it differently every now and then, but yeah, Excide.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd this project get started?
So it was supposed to be like a just internet solo thing, honestly. The band that I was talking about earlier that me and Chuck played guitar in, I was trying to write with that band, and I would send ideas their way and they would get rejected every now and then. And so I had a couple of demos just kind of sitting on my computer, and I was like, man, like I was in this headspace of, man, like, you know, like, screw these guys. I think these songs are awesome. Like, you know, I could do something with these. Yeah. And as I started to work on them a little bit more, I eventually came to the conclusion, like, well, why channel all this energy into something that's just going to sound the same as the other thing, more or less. And I was like, let me just mold these songs more into what my dream band is, which is just a Snapcase ripoff band. And so that was all the intention ever was, is like, I was like, I'm going to write these songs. I guess I'm going to sing on them because I don't know who else I would get sing on them. And I don't know like who would do the parts the way I want them done. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I guess I'll sing on them, whatever. And so, yeah, I started writing them and getting them ready. And eventually it was kind of like, I would just show my friends as I was doing stuff. And, I showed my friend who was our original drummer, and he was like, I'll play drums, or like, I'll at least record drums. And I was like, okay, cool. That takes some of the weight off of me. Like, I don't have to play every instrument, and then my friend Jake, who played in one of my other bands at the time, and we've been friends forever. He was like, and he plays bass for us. He was like, I gotta play bass for this. Like, and I was like, well, it's not gonna be anything, but like, okay, sure, whatever. And then our original, like one of our original guitar players, same thing. He was like, he heard it and he was just like, I'll play guitar for this. And so I'm sitting here going, okay, we got a drummer, we got a bassist, we got one guitar player, and I'm gonna sing on it, I guess. I was like, so now all we need is like one other guy. Yeah. And then our guitar player, Gage, just happened to be moving to South Carolina at the time. And I was like, hey, like, we're friends. And I know that you're going to want to start a band as soon as you move to this other state. So how about you just play guitar in this? And he was just like, I'm down. Nice. So yeah. And then that was kind of the origin of it. And then we played one show and COVID happened. Yeah, right.
I'm curious about the visual aesthetic for the band. Who's the kind of art director, visionary for that side of the band?
Well, for our album covers and stuff, we've always gone to the same guy. He's this guy, Cirrus from Prague. He doesn't really put his name anywhere. It's just Cirrus, which is his Instagram handle. Okay. But I don't even remember where I saw his stuff the first time. But I just found him on Instagram, and I was like, oh, this shit is cool. And he had done a lot of stuff for some other cool, bigger bands that we really liked, and we were like, this would be sick. And we just kind of give him rough ideas of what we want, and then he just kind of does it. Nice. Which is sick, and we always end up loving it, which is cool.
Nice. It's always cool to like see a band who has like a kind of visual direction and everything fits under the umbrella, and it's like, yeah, it's fucking Gasket when you see it, right?
Yeah. It always makes me have a weird feeling whenever it's like I find a band and then it's like all their album arts look completely different in a weird way. Like I love Candy, but like for example, Candy like had the same guy do a ton of their shit, and then they dropped a record that was like a totally different art style, and it was a great record, but it was like, damn, I wish the other guy did it,
Yeah, the vibe is off.
Yeah.